everyone. I'm Father Alexander,
And I'm the Reverend David Marshall.
and this is A Bridge Between, where we bridge our knowledge of the gospel, bridge the physical distance between us, and bridge some issues of the day. And it's been a great Easter season, but now we're getting towards that second half of it. 2 more weeks really in Easter before we hit Pentecost. And we've got a lot of things going on. I'm going to be instituted as the new rector of St. John the Divine on Thursday, May 2nd. So I ask for everyone's prayers. We don't use the word installed.
I do.
I was corrected. I was corrected several times.
I don't care how
And the
you
way it was
install.
told, that's okay. The way it was told to me is you were not an air conditioner.
Oh, you
And
are
I'm
an
like,
air
all right.
conditioner. See, this is where I completely disagree with it.
See,
And this
and
is
well,
our
or
former bishop.
yeah, well,
Yes.
you can say I blow a lot of air. I'm an air conditioner. There you
See?
go.
Right. You make things more comfortable. You make things more livable. You are an installation. You are a part of. Because what word are we supposed? What are we supposed to say?
Instituted or inducted.
You're
Those are the
not. You're
proper.
not an institution. Nor are you a duck.
There you go.
I'm inducted.
So I covet everyone's prayers for that time. It'll be a very holy and special time, and I'm thankful for the people of St. John who are walking with me on that, and thankful for you because you're going to be preaching at that service.
I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be preaching on expectations. So, uh,
Exactly.
so
Now, just to let you
uh,
know,
mhm.
for your preaching, I have very high expectations.
Please, I was about to say, lower your expectations.
Okay,
Whatever you think it is, just lower them. Everything will be happier. Like air conditioning, just
maybe
lower the temperature. Just
lower the temperature. It'll be
lower the
better.
expectation down. But it's going to be fantastic. And my
So
mom flies in tomorrow, and she's flying in specifically for your installation. Okay, she's not.
exactly,
She's flying in because my son Ethan is getting married on Saturday.
exactly, and
And
I'll be keeping them in prayer as well.
you know them
Exactly. So
because
I'm very
Alex is doing the
exactly I
premarital
do.
for them. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So, but we've got 2 weeks left really in the Easter season before we hit Pentecost. And I love our reading today because it just makes me want to jump on a soapbox. And I'm not going to do that, but
Why not?
I'm going to be very forceful in my thoughts today.
But
And
soapbox it, man.
there you go. Well,
Climb on up.
the quote, the Bible passage comes from John 15:9-17. And as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Right? So this is my commandment that you love one another as I have loved you. So here is my question, Dave. We're supposed to love one another. Hold on. Hold on.
All right.
We're supposed to love one another
Mm-hmm.
as Jesus loves us. Okay. You called a timeout. What's your take on this?
Well, because your verb tense is wrong. But other than that, you're good. So has
Well, it
loved,
says here.
is loving, will love, right? This is
Okay,
this
aorist.
it
So
is
aorist
it
tense.
this
Yes.
what bugs me about English right now is that it's only putting it in past tense. As has loved, so I have, and this is passive. It's a very much
Right.
active, present, and future tense love. So
Right.
just
So
if I
how
can just get
should
that
I
out of
be
the way.
loving people? Yeah. So how should I be loving people if I am to love as Jesus has loved me? So this really creates a very interesting dynamic because we have to discern as Christians, how does Jesus love me? Right.
Oh,
And then
okay,
how do I make my love for others a reflection of that?
okay.
You know,
Hmm.
so here's my take, and then I'll turn it over to you. I think the word love is so overused in our society. It's hard to say I love you to your spouse when the same word is also used, for candy or football or anything.
Mhm.
And so we have to be careful with this word love. But the other thing is that when we think of love, we think of it often as an emotion, a feeling,
Okay.
right? Rather than it being an action, the act of love. And then finally, the sub question I would say is where are the boundaries that we place around love? Not that God doesn't love us if we do certain things. That's not what I'm saying. But to say that in loving relationships, there are boundaries. There are standards that we set for one another in order to keep things healthy. And I
Right.
think that's kind of where I want to be moving in that space in this discussion.
So where's the soapbox?
Well, okay, well,
I,
it's a short one. It's about that big.
all right. I want to hear the Alex prophetic Tell me what you think about love, and just come
Well,
on.
I think we sometimes get it very wrong in the church
Okay.
because sometimes the message is, and I know where this comes from. It comes from a good place. That if we're not careful and people come to church and we preach about love,
Mhm.
we preach solely about how much God loves people. Absolutely true,
Absolutely
100%.
true. Right.
But sometimes we also need to preach that our expression of love towards God needs to be grounded in grace and moving away from sin.
Okay.
That our expression of love, so that if we're being honest with people, saying, okay, you have come here, come as you are, true, but leave transformed.
Yes.
And so, how willing are we as the church? How willing as we as preachers? How willing are we as Christians holding one another accountable in our communities to say to one another in love, this might not be the healthiest thing for you to do, or this might not be the most loving thing that you're doing right now? That to me is the growing edge.
Right. And this harkens back to the passage just before this one about pruning, and
Hmm.
love and pruning. So where does that come into play as well? So
Are
what
we
I hear you
willing? Are we
saying,
willing to be pruned? Yeah.
right? And that that pruning is can be an act of love, because pruning
Hmm.
is what creates more fruit or more growth or more love.
Right.
And
And um, I think words like discipline are very hard for us to take. I know that when I think of discipline, I think of spiritual disciplines, but I think also of being punished. Discipline is not punishment. When God demonstrates to us that we're supposed to have discipline in our lives, it's not meant to hinder us, as just as you said, it's meant to help us to grow.
right,
So I
right,
think getting that clear helps puts us on a path of real spiritual growth.
right. So I was in the VA. Chaplain was in a group, and our lead chaplain was talking to a guy who was married, but he was considering dating somebody else at the same time. And he had said, "Well, I have
Mm,
love in my heart, and now that I'm fully restored and I'm on clean and healthy, I really feel like I can do this." And the chaplain, who is of a Christian background,
right,
a liturgical Christian background, he looked at him and said, "Love doesn't mean you can have this and that. Love
right,
means you have this or that, that you can't love your wife
yeah,
and pick up this girlfriend at the same time. That's not love. And because you think
right,
you have love in your heart, you can do it both. You can't. It won't work. So you have to choose one or the other. And if you, by the way, if you go with that
yeah,
or, you're also going to drop off of your recovery, guaranteed. Uh,
yeah,
and it was just this
yeah.
full on, and because he's really kind and sweet and gentle as a mentor and also as a chaplain, and we were like, huh. But that was this abiding
Mhm.
love. He had to tell him
Yeah.
exactly how it's going to work.
So
And
let's pause. Let's pause for a second because that takes me right back to, if we're supposed to love one another as Jesus loved us,
mhm,
how did Jesus love us? Well, Jesus demonstrated unconditional love, meaning there's no precondition
right,
that you have to fulfill in order to be loved by God.
hmm,
So instead of maybe using the word unconditional love,
hmm,
to say that there is no preconditional love. God, in Jesus as God incarnate, sees people, doesn't make a judgment call about their worthiness. He just takes the risk, and loves them.
hmm,
But even the people who come to Jesus, who are doing things that they shouldn't do, aren't just immediately excused. He draws a boundary around them
right,
and says, this is not something that is healthy.
right,
You know, I love, for example, the woman caught in adultery. He doesn't tell her to just go. He says, go and sin no more.
right,
But
yeah,
the grace had to be introduced first.
hmm,
The acceptance of the person and recognizing her as a person occurred first.
hmm,
Then he said, the grace of God, the forgiveness of God means acknowledging you and then sending you back out on your way with the understanding of go and sin no more. And this is that disconnect that sometimes can happen. And so I think of Jesus saying, there's no preconditional love. And then the other thing is that Jesus invested his time and his energy and his passion into people,
Hmm.
into those people around him. To
Hmm.
me, that is that outward sign of love. So if we're looking at our church to truly love like Jesus did, it's investing passionately and with kindness and attention and time into people.
Yes, I completely agree. I love the soapbox you're on, and I don't want to stop you.
Okay. Well, no, but I mean, what's been your experience with this, or what are your thoughts?
All right. So, just so you know, what I have been reading this morning was I'm fascinated by the most recent scholarship that's digging into the various forms of love as highlighted in Greek.
Hmm.
And in particular in John's Gospel, where there are some authors and there's some clergy, by the way, who are going to listen to this and get kind of unhappy with it. But
Hmm.
it seems as if he is interchanging phileo and agape, and that
Okay.
that the great distance, the great gulf that we used to think existed between those two words, isn't necessarily there. And one of the uh, according to most recent scholarship. So again, you can disagree with this as much as you want. Agape love is often referred to as sacrifice. Phileo is
Hmm.
often talked about as friendship. That's where you get
Hmm.
Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, that kind of stuff. And so,
Correct.
um, in John's gospel, love is treated differently than any other gospel, and the word sin is treated differently in John's gospel than any other gospel. And
Hmm.
so it kind of stands out on its own in the way that it views these things. Sin in John's gospel is a lack of one's faith. It is about not having faith either in Jesus or in God the Father, having faith in your fellow humankind. That if you follow where Jesus talks about sin, it's not about like stealing, and it's not violating the lower commandments. It is about not having your faith in who God is. I am the Lord your
Right.
God. I have rescued you. You are mine. That
Yeah.
whole thing. That sin is forgetting that or turning away from that particular point, and that Jesus is the bridge to bring us back into getting to connection to the first top um, commandment or two. And so
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating to look at sin that way, and that love is the bridge. That His love is what gets us back. As the Father loves me, so I love you. You love me. You love the Father.
Right.
The sense of, and by the way, there's a bridge, and I know intentionally I'm talking about this during a bridge between
Yeah. I'm
that
about to make a reference too, so don't worry.
well, thank you. I knew it was coming, right? And so, and this type of bridge is timeless, which is why the aorist tense is used. It's something in the past, it's happening now, will happen in the future. That whole sense of that, and that I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in His love. The
Hmm.
idea that I have kept Him at the center, I've kept Him as another way to put it that John is writing is that Jesus is saying, "I haven't sinned. I've kept my Father's commandments," in again a very
Right.
Johannine view of sin. Um, I haven't sinned. I abide in His love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be completed in the sense of completeness.
And so here's where I would put another bridge,
Okay.
because you mentioned this idea of the filio and the agape,
Hmm.
and to say, what if there was a bridge between them?
There
What
is.
if there was something that drew them drawing together in that way?
Yeah, yeah. So I forgot about this part. That agape love can be commanded, phileo love cannot be.
Hmm.
Yeah, look at that. That's some of the most recent stuff I just read this morning was
So,
about
well,
that.
and but what I'm referring to is that if we're to love like Jesus did,
Right.
then it is that filial love is feels like it's a love towards everyone. That sense of friendship, right? And then the agape we sometimes narrow down, and to say it's for a select few people, right? Like, I'm not going to just
Yeah,
agape for
yes,
anybody.
yes.
Well, I'm saying
Well,
that's how it
okay,
sometimes can come across, not from Jesus, but and
right.
so, but what I'm saying is, what if we eliminated that barrier, created the
Right.
bridge between it, and said that really to everyone should be not just friendship, but agape.
Hmm. Right. Um, and not just agape, but the choice that one makes with friendship. So he says to agape your enemies, right? So this is the sense
Hmm.
of doing that, but he doesn't tell you to phileo them. He doesn't tell, don't become friends with them. Don't like write them love notes and that type of stuff. Don't hold
Hmm.
them in high esteem, but you must do these things. And so in the second half of this lesson, we're hearing about commands, and you're my friends if you do what I command you. Again, an
Yeah,
agape is it is still a choice, of course, but it is something that's more commandable.
yeah,
Nobody commanded me to become your friend. I saw we started chatting. I'm like, I want to be that dude's friend, right? And that's what we did. We can't say higher type of love. It is a unique set aside side of it.
well, and just for the record, your mom did not email me or anything telling me to be your friend. Just want to clarify that
All
right
right,
now. You know,
right. Well,
you know.
right.
Uh,
Your mom emailed
so
me, but that's all separate.
that's
Just
exactly what
kidding.
happened. But kind of coming back to what this has to do with Easter, and
Wait, what does this
I
have to do
think,
with Easter? You're right.
yeah, what does that have to do with Easter? Jesus is demonstrating in this reading the essence and the purity and the action of love, as you say, it has been commanded of Him,
Right.
and that it is to be commanded of all. During this Easter season, the greatest act of love, I believe, that we can give goes beyond charity, it goes beyond outreach. It is evangelizing. It is telling people that the love of God is there in Jesus, and that the love of God is something that is present for them, no preconditions necessary, right? But prepare to be transformed. And here's the hard part. In our churches, we find it so difficult to make this act of love because we don't want to get in other people's business. We don't want to bother people. We don't want to talk religion or politics in the workplace or even in our own families. But the essence of love is really what the Easter message is all about. Love destroyed death. Love raised Jesus from the grave. And now love needs to be shared with everyone that we meet.
Hmm. Okay. So uh, I'm going to hopefully not land in hot water here. I really like churches that do feeding programs and food banks and all that.
Very important. Very
Um,
important.
we can't do it better than All Faiths Food Bank is doing. I appreciate organizations that get involved in politics, especially around justice and those things. Gun control is something that has been top of mind for me. Um, they're going to do it better than the church does it, flat out. And
Yeah.
so, what the church has been called to do is who can love better than the church, who can forgive better, who can teach these things better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the exercise organization, it's not NASCAR, certainly not the NFL. Nobody's going to teach love, not even our school system. That this is something that has been set aside for the church. That this sense of love and abiding, so to be able to hold fast during tough times, that
Mm-hmm.
sense of abiding, that is a gift that the church has. And when you talk about evangelism, what I hear you saying is lead into the strengths of the church, lead into what we're called to do. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, are we called to feed one another? Absolutely. We're supposed to collect food. Yes.
Of course. Of
Diaper
course.
drives, everything. We're supposed to do that. But our strength comes into, and our spiritual gifts come into from this. As the Father has loved me, so I loved you. Abide in my love. People will know that you're part of me by your love.
I'm going to give you a kind of something that coalesces this and puts some synergy between us and what our diocese is doing with what the bishop has talked about. What is your why? That's something that he's been
Yep.
talking to congregations about.
Mhm.
And I think the strength of the church is not that our why is better. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But is that our why is so powerful and so original that all the other whys truly can flow from it. So it's like when somebody says, why do you feed people? It's not just because they're hungry, but it's because God said, feed the hungry. And because I recognize my own hunger. That's my why. Why do you respect the dignity of every human being? Well, not just because the baptismal covenant says why, but also because I'm a human being and God respects and loves my dignity, and I'm supposed to do it with everyone. And so yes, all these other organizations can do wonderful things,
And they
but
do
the
do wonderful things.
why, and they do wonderful things, but the why is important. And if the why is based on Christ,
Mhm.
it's fixed. It's never going to move. You know, you've seen some organizations, they can shift and change. And when the church itself has found areas where it has shifted and changed away from Christ, it doesn't end well.
It does not.
And
No,
when
especially when
is
it
the
shifts.
church,
When it
yeah, and
shifts
when
and
is the church
changes
most
to
effective?
politics and right.
Yeah,
Um,
to
when
change
is
to
it
politics and things like that. Yeah. Go ahead.
right? Sorry. So, folks, both Alex and I have undergraduate degrees in political science and master's degrees in religion. So we can talk about two things that nobody wants to talk about on a pretty high level. You're talking to a guy, me, who has a Myers Briggs association of an ESTJ, and so I
Hmm.
see things differently. We have the best why, in my opinion. That it's
Well,
the best,
I was
and
trying to be thoughtful and
I
courteous.
know,
Yes.
but the way I hear it is that who's better at prayer than us? I mean, honestly, who's better at prayer? And for the Episcopal Church, who's better at weddings? Who's better at funerals? Is there some? And I'm sorry, I'm sounding awfully boastful, and I apologize. You're getting the full ESTJ effect, but
Boast in the Lord.
this is what we do, right? This is one of the things that makes us special. This is where the Lord has set us apart,
Yeah.
and we are we should be very good at it, and we should be sharing it with the rest of the world. So go
Right.
exercise, go watch NASCAR, whatever. But when you need prayer, when you need somebody there on your worst day, this is it.
So let me put it this way to kind of bring our time together as we kind of come
Well,
to a close.
I have one more
Sorry.
thing
Well,
before we close,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
because I know you're about ready to wrap it up. So, preachers, there is a line in here I would just assume to remove, and that line is right at the end. Um, so the Father will give you whatever you ask Him in my name. And preachers, you know that this is something that's difficult. And we go through this beautiful passage, and then one of the last lines is, "The Father will give you whatever you ask Him in my name." And then somebody will say to us at the end of a beautiful service, they will say, I prayed for a 12-speed bike when I was 8. I never got it. Um, so if you want to look at the Greek and have fun with it, go for it. If you want to just hear what I'm saying, Jesus said, I appointed you to go and bear fruit. So whatever fruit you ask for, you will bear.
Yeah.
It's all tied in together. And so if you're a lemon tree and you want to produce a banana, it's not going to happen, right? But if you're a lemon tree that prunes and is watered and fertilized and all that, you will bear fruit. And I'm convinced that Jesus wasn't kidding when he said, "You will do things greater than this." And then Peter and the rest did things greater than that, and they passed it to us. And we are now doing things greater than that. And so
Amen.
that's the
Amen.
fruit that is that whatever you ask, fruit in my name, that's what's happening.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna try to close it right there, but I just wanted to make one last point, which is talking about the why. And you talked about having the best why. I think if we
Yeah.
could describe God to people in our society who are looking for meaning, we could tell them God is the ultimate why. He is the ultimate purpose in our lives. And so, for those people who are seeking a sense of purpose in their life, for a person who is seeking, like, what am I supposed to do? God provides the purpose, and He provides the person through whom it can be done in Jesus.
Yep. Amen. Well, Alex, I'm looking forward to celebrating at your installation.
Thank you, and bring the adapter, bring the extra screws, things like that.
You bet.
Looking forward to it, and
I mean,
thankful for
you're a
everybody who's
220-volt guy, so that's you're a direct current. You know,
looking forward to all of those things. And I would say to preachers this week, ask yourself, what is my why? What is my why? And pray about that, because there are people in our congregations who are asking that question. And as spiritual guides, as clergy, we need to be vulnerable and share that we're discerning that too, but also we
Mhm.
need to be pointing to the cross and Christ. All right?
Amen.
All right. Well, we're going to catch everybody in the next one, but make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. We're trying to get better about those. And, tell us about some things that maybe what your why is, or maybe some things we didn't cover today about the reading and what Easter is doing for you. So thanks, everybody. And thanks, Dave.
And you're welcome. Thank you, Alex. God bless.
God bless.